There is a 5-gallon glass jug sitting on a wooden bench in my garden shed in rural Ohio right now. There is no pump on it, no cord, no chemicals, just dark soil, vegetable scraps, and a few hundred red wiggler worms working away in the dark. That jug cost me almost nothing to set up, and what comes out of it does more for my tomatoes than the whole shelf of sprays and fertilizer bags I used to buy every single spring. Now the title of this video says illegal, so let me be straight with you before we go one step further. Nothing I'm going to show you today will get you in any trouble with anybody. Folks call these tricks illegal as a joke because they break just about every rule the modern garden center taught us. Buy the spray, feed the plant, fight the bugs. My Amish neighbors never learned those rules, and their gardens are the healthiest I have ever walked through. Today, I'm going to give you 25 of their methods, start to finish, and stay with me all the way to number 25 because it is the one my neighbor Daniel calls the most important of all, and it sounds completely backwards. It is a small patch he plants every year and never harvests on purpose. And the reason why is the whole secret of a garden that defends itself. I'm Bill, though most folks online know me as Backyard Bill. I've spent 30 years learning hard lessons on a little piece of land in rural Ohio, and for too many of those years I fought my garden with a rototiller and a shelf of chemicals and lost. My greatest teachers live right across the fence in the Amish community I'm blessed to call my neighbors, and most of what I share I learned from my friend Daniel. Here is the problem with the way most of us were taught to garden. We treat every bug as an emergency. Number 7, onions beside carrots. This is the oldest partnership in the book, and it works in both directions. The carrot fly finds carrots by scent, and the smell of onions scrambles that signal. The onion fly likewise gets confused by the smell of carrots. So the old pattern is a row of carrots, a row of onions, side by side down the bed. 2 crops, each one hiding the other. That is what folks mean by companion planting, putting plants together so each one solves a problem for its neighbor. Number 8, radishes among the cucumbers. Cucumber beetles, a little striped or spotted beetles that chew seedlings and spread disease. The old trick is to poke radish seeds right in among your cucumber and squash hills, a few around each one, and let those radishes grow past eating stage right up into flower. For reasons the old-timers never needed explained to them, the beetles keep their distance from that patch. Radish seed costs about $2, and the packet plants the whole garden. Number 9, the nasturtium trap. Nasturtiums are those round leaf flowers with the orange and yellow blooms, and aphids love them more than almost anything you grow. So you plant them a few feet away from your beans and your tomatoes as bait. The aphids pile onto the nasturtiums and leave the vegetables be. When a stem gets loaded up black with aphids, you pinch off that one stem and drop it in soapy water. That is the whole idea of a trap crop. You are not banning the pest from the garden. You are choosing where it eats. Number 10, strong herbs among the tomatoes. Basil tucked between tomato plants, and it confuses hornworm moths hunting a place to lay eggs. Dill and cilantro nearby. Mint in a sunken pot, so it cannot run wild near the cabbage. Every strong-smelling herb is a smokescreen over the crop beside it, and you get a kitchen full of herbs in the bargain. 10 tricks in, and notice something. We have not killed much of anything yet. Hold that thought because it points straight at number 25. The patch Daniel plants and never picks, and we are working our way there. Now we come to my favorite part of the whole system. So far we blocked pests and confused them. This next group is about hiring your defenders because the best pest control in my garden has wings and legs and works for free. Number 11, let some herbs go to flower. Most folks pull their dill and cilantro the moment it bolts. The Amish let a patch of it bloom on purpose. Those little umbrella-shaped flowers feed tiny beneficial wasps and hoverflies, and I know how beneficial wasp sounds, but these are harmless little creatures, smaller than a grain of rice, and their young eat aphids and caterpillars by the hundreds. A blooming row of dill, fennel, and yarrow along the garden edge is a hiring sign. Feed the adults nectar, and their children eat your pests. Number 12, the wren house. A pair of house wrens raising one brood will carry hundreds of caterpillars and beetles out of your garden day after day, dawn to dark. A wren house is a small wooden box with an entrance hole about 1 inch across. 1 inch, and that small hole matters because it lets wrens in and keeps bigger bulling birds out. Hang one at each end of the garden 6 to 10 feet up. My neighbor's fence posts and barn eaves are lined with bird houses, and it is not decoration, it is the day shift. Number 13, the toad pot. One toad eats slugs, beetles, and cutworms every single night of the growing season, and all it asks for is shade and damp. Take an old clay flower pot, chip a doorway in the rim about 2 inches wide, flip it upside down in a shady, damp corner of a bed. That is the whole job. If a toad moves in, that is your night shift hired, and it works for rent. Number 14, the stone water dish. Every worker I just mentioned needs water in August. Take a shallow dish or an old pie pan, fill it with small stones, add water so the stones stand just above the surface. The stones give bees, wasps, and birds a safe place to stand and drink without drowning. Set it in the garden and keep it filled through the hot weeks. Dry gardens lose their defenders to the neighbor who has water. It is that plain. Number 15. The messy border. This one costs you nothing but the urge to tidy. Leave one strip along the garden edge a little wild, some tall grass, a few flat stones, a small pile of sticks. That strip is where ground beetles, spiders, and toads live and spend the winter. Ground beetles alone hunt slug eggs and cutworms all night long. My chemical year's garden was tidy as a parking lot, and it was defenseless. A working garden keeps quarters for its workers. Quick recap, because that was a lot of hiring. Flowers for the little wasps, a house for the wrens, a pot for the toad, water for everybody, and a wild strip to live in. Do those 5 and your garden has a staff. But every one of those defenders depends on what comes next, because all of it stands on the soil. And this is where that glass jug from the beginning finally comes in. Number 16, the worm jug. That 5-gallon jug in my shed is a worm bin, and you can make one from any bin or bucket with a few air holes. Red wiggler worms, a few handfuls of damp shredded newspaper, and your vegetable scraps, coffee grounds, and eggshells. The worms turn scraps into castings, which is a polite word for the richest fertilizer I have ever used. Steep a shovel full of castings in a 5-gallon bucket of water overnight, and you get worm tea. Water it around your plants, and they green up within the week. My jug replaced most of that fertilizer shelf I used to buy, and it runs on garbage. Number 17, feed the soil, not the plant. This is the sentence that rebuilt my whole garden. The bags of 10-10-10 I used to buy feed the plant directly, like feeding a child nothing but candy, quick and green and weak. Compost and aged manure feed the soil itself, the worms and the living things in it, and the soil feeds the plant slow and steady. And here is the part nobody told me for 30 years. Soft, overfed growth is exactly what aphids and disease go looking for. Plants raised on living soil grow tougher leaves and thicker stems. Half of pest control is just this. Number 18, the straw blanket. Once the soil is warm, my neighbors mulch everything with straw, laid down about 3 inches deep. 3 inches, thick enough to shade the ground. The straw holds moisture so plants never hit the stress of a dry week, and a stressed plant is a target. It stops soil from splashing up onto tomato leaves when it rains, which is how most tomato blight actually starts. And it gives your ground beetles and spiders a hunting ground right at the base of every plant. One bale covers a lot of garden and costs less than 1 bottle of spray. Number 19, the milk cure. If powdery mildew shows up, that white dusty coating on squash and cucumber leaves, the old remedy is plain milk. Mix 1 part milk to 2 parts water. That is 1 cup of milk to 2 cups of water in a sprayer. Spray the leaves in the morning sun, top and bottom, once a week. While you see mildew, it sounds like folklore, but the milk changes the leaf surface so the mildew cannot take hold, and it has held up in my garden year after year. Number 20, take out the truly sick. For all the live and let live in this system, my neighbors are ruthless about one thing. A plant that is badly diseased, black with blight, or wilted with something spreading comes out the same day, roots and all, and it leaves the garden. It does not go in the compost. It gets burned or bagged. One sick plant left standing is a seed bank of trouble for next year. Protect the many, remove the one. And keep that phrase in mind, protect the many, because number 25 turns it in a direction you will not expect. We are in the home stretch now, and these last few are not really tricks at all. They are habits, the ones that separate the gardens that get better every year from the ones that start over every spring. Number 21, the 4-bed rotation. Divide the garden into 4 beds. Tomato family in bed 1, cabbage family in bed 2, beans and peas in bed 3, roots and onions in bed 4. Next year, everything shifts 1 bed over and around it goes, a 4-year circle. Here is why. Most pests and diseases winter in the soil right under the crop they love, rotate, and they wake up in spring under the wrong plant. It costs nothing but a note on the calendar, and it quietly prevents half the problems folks spray for. Number 22. The morning walk. Every morning, coffee in hand, I walk the rows before the day starts. That is the whole practice, and Daniel has done it his entire life. You are looking for small trouble while it is still small. Beetles are cold and slow at dawn, so they cannot fly off, and you knock potato beetles and Japanese beetles straight into a jar of soapy water. 5 quiet minutes a day, and nothing in the garden ever gets to surprise you. Of everything in this video, this habit might pay the most. Something chews a leaf, we reach for a bottle. The spray kills the pest, sure, but it also kills the spiders, the ladybugs, and the tiny wasps that were eating those pests for free. So next month the pests come back, and their enemies do not, and we spray again. I ran that treadmill for years, a couple $100 a season, and my garden got weaker every year I did it. The Amish gardens across my fence line run on a different idea entirely. Build the system, and the system does the fighting. That is what these 25 tricks add up to, and I will come back to that jug of worms later, because it sits right in the middle of the whole thing. We will start at the garden gate with the simplest barriers first. Number 1, the cardboard collar. Cutworms are fat gray caterpillars that live in the soil and chew young transplants clean off at the ground, usually the very first night. The old fix is a plain cardboard collar. Cut a strip of cardboard about 3 inches tall, wrap it loosely around the stem of each new tomato or pepper transplant. Push it about 1 inch down into the soil. That is 1 inch below and 2 inches above. And the depth matters because cutworms attack right at the soil line. The worm bumps into cardboard instead of stem, and it moves on. By midsummer, the cardboard just rots into the ground. A cereal box protects a whole row. Now, everything I'm showing you today comes out of what my neighbors taught me, and I wrote the whole system down in a book called The 30-Day Amish Pest-Proof Garden Protocol. It is 117 pages laid out as a 30-day plan any home gardener can follow. It starts with why modern gardens attract pests and Amish gardens do not, then the 5 defense layers of a garden that protects itself, the 7 foundations and the setup week, and then the 30 days week by week from kill nothing, build everything, all the way to the self-defending garden. There is a troubleshooting section, a common pest field guide, your whole first season month by month, and the deeper skills too, seed saving, hand tools, and preserving the harvest. It is $17, marked down from $47. That is $17 once against a shelf of sprays you buy again every single season. Now go ahead and grab your phone and open up your camera, the same one you use to take pictures. Point it at that square code on your screen and hold it steady for a second. A little link will pop up. Give it a tap and it will take you straight to the book. And if you are watching on your phone right now, the link is waiting for you right down below in the description. Take your time. There is no rush at all. I'll wait right here. All right? Back to the garden gate because slugs are next. Number 2, the wood ash ring. If you have a wood stove or a fire pit, you already own slug control. Take cold, dry wood ash, sprinkle a ring of it about 2 inches wide around your hostas, lettuce, and cabbage. Slugs will not cross it because the ash dries out the slime they travel on. One thing to know, rain washes the ring away, so you refresh it after a wet night. And go easy, a light ring, not a pile, because too much ash can sweeten your soil more than it wants. Number 3. The flipped board. This one feels like cheating. Lay a plain wooden board flat on the soil near your lettuce bed in the evening. Slugs feed at night and hide from the sun at dawn, and that board is the best hotel in the neighborhood. Walk out in the morning with your coffee, flip the board. There they all are lined up underneath. Scrape them into a bucket of soapy water and set the board back down for tomorrow. Daniel showed me this with one look and no words at all, and I've used it every season since. Number 4, the old bed sheet. The garden catalogs sell floating row cover, which is just a light fabric you lay over young plants so flying insects cannot reach them to lay eggs. My neighbors use what the house already owns, an old thin bed sheet or cheesecloth draped loose over hoops of bent wire with the edges held down by soil or stones. Loose is the key word, so the plants have room to grow up into it. Cover cabbage and broccoli from the day you plant them, and the cabbage moth never gets to lay her eggs. One rule to remember, anything that needs bees, like squash or cucumbers, gets uncovered once it starts to flower. Covered until flower, then open for the bees. Number 5. Plant by the soil, not the calendar. The seed packet says plant after May 15th, but the soil does not read the packet. Cold, wet soil is where seeds rot and where the earliest pests find weak, stalled seedlings. The old-timers judge the ground itself. Take a handful of soil and squeeze it. If it stays in a slick ball, it is too cold and wet. If it crumbles apart loose in your hand, it is ready. A stalled plant is an invitation. A plant growing fast in warm ground outruns half its problems on its own. So that is the gate. Colors, ash, the board, the bed sheet, and warm soil. Those 5 stop trouble before it starts. But barriers only go so far. And this next group is where the Amish gardens start to look truly different from ours, because now we are going to confuse the pests instead of blocking them. Number 6, never plant a solid block of one crop. Walk a modern garden and you see 20 feet of nothing but cabbage. To a cabbage moth, that is a lit up billboard. Pests find their target crop mostly by smell and by sight, and a solid block is easy to find and easy to work down the line, plant after plant. My neighbor's rows are mixed. Cabbage, then onions, then a few flowers, then more cabbage. Break your plantings into small patches, separated by something strongly scented, and the pest that lands on plant 1 cannot simply walk to plant 2. It is such a simple change, and it cuts damage all by itself. Number 23, the last resort spray. When something truly gets ahead of you, there is an old homemade remedy before anything harsher. Crush a whole head of garlic and 1 hot pepper. Steep them in a quart of water overnight. Strain it well through a cloth. Add 1 teaspoon of plain liquid soap. Spray it only on the plants under attack in the evening, not in bright sun. It repels most chewing pests and it fades away in days. Notice the difference in the whole approach. It is aimed at one problem and it does not carpet the garden. Number 24, save seed from your survivors. At season's end, look for the plants that came through best. The tomato that shrugged off blight, the squash the borers missed. Save seed from those, and I show the drying and storing in detail in the book. Do it a few years running and you are breeding vegetables fitted to your soil, your weather, and your particular pests. Amish families have carried garden seed this way for generations, and it is why their old varieties stand up so well. Store-bought seed starts over every year. Saved seed learns. And that brings us to the one I promised you at the very start, number 25, the sacrifice patch. Every year, Daniel plants more than his family needs, and one patch near the garden edge never gets harvested or defended at all. Extra cabbage, extra greens, a stand of flowers gone wild. The first time I saw aphids on it, I offered to help him deal with them, and he just smiled and left them be. Here is the backward truth he explained to me. Across that fence, all those defenders we hired, the wrens, the toads, the ladybugs, the tiny wasps, they are not decorations. They are workers, and workers have to eat every single week, not just during an outbreak. A garden scrubbed down to 0 pests is a garden where the defenders starve and leave. Then the next wave of pests arrives to find no enemies waiting at all, and you get the boom and bust I lived through for 30 years. The sacrifice patch keeps a small, steady, harmless population of pests on the payroll, feeding a permanent standing army that patrols your vegetables year-round. That is why Amish gardens are full of bugs and free of bug problems. You are not trying to win the war. You are keeping the peace, and the peace has to be fed. And that is the heart of what Daniel taught me. The book is the whole 30 days of it, layer by layer, so your garden can start defending itself this season instead of 3 decades from now like it took me. The 30-day Amish Pest-Proof Garden Protocol by Backyard Bill, 117 pages, $17, marked down from $47. $17 one time against the sprays that get bought again every single year and keep the war going. Now go ahead and grab your phone and open up your camera, the same one you used to take pictures. Point it at that square code on your screen and hold it steady for a second. A little link will pop up. Give it a tap and it will take you straight to the book. And if you are watching on your phone right now, the link is waiting for you right down below in the description. Take your time. There is no rush at all. I'll wait right here. So there they are, 25 ways to block the pests, confuse them, hire their enemies, feed the soil, and keep the whole system standing. Now tell me in the comments which pest is winning in your garden right right now and what you've thrown at it so far. I read every single one. Next time, I'm going to show you the $2 pantry staple my neighbors mix into their tomato planting holes every spring. And the reason it goes in at planting time and never later, because the timing is the entire trick. Work with nature, not against it, and I'll see you in the garden.